mercy. Okay. That was supposed to just be copied, but whatever. All right. Okay. I think I'm back on. I have no idea what's going on, but I'm not even going to worry about it. We will just continue with what we are doing, and I will assume that we have gotten back on. All right. So if you're out there and you can see and we're back on, please just drop me a quick, yep, you can see, or something like that while I try to figure out. Well, no, I'm just going to go ahead, basically, once I know what's happened and that we are effectively. Okay, there we go. It's all good. No, it's not. But at least I can get back on this time. All right. Tell me where we stopped. What was the last thing you heard? Had I finished that Anai's song, or did we need to go back and read the last bit? I see you too, Tracy. I see you all. Did I? Can you tell me what the last thing you heard is before it glitched out? One of these days we'll figure out exactly why it's doing this, but for the moment we won't worry about it. Didn't hear the song at all. Oh, bugger. Okay. All right. Never heard the song. All right. So I will go back. Did you hear Jiriki talking about why he wasn't particularly sympathetic or interested in human things? Did that come up? God, how long was it off? How long did it glitch? Something about the High King. Okay, good. And then we'll start right about there. What a shame. I read that so beautifully. I can say that because, of course, nobody heard. Okay, so Jiriki was saying, as far as I am concerned, you and your High King may grind each other to dust. With respectfulness, Prince Jiriki, Benebik said, you are not examining the full truth. If it was only the struggling of mortal kings and princes that concerned us, we would all of us be defending Naglamund. You know that we 5, at least, are having other goals. Then know this, Jiriki said stiffly. Though the years that have passed since we were sundered from the Hikadaya, those you call the Norns, are as numerous as snowflakes, still we are one blood. How could we take the side of upstart men against our kin? Why should we, when once we walked together beneath the sun, coming out of the ultimate east? What allegiance could we possibly owe to mortals who have destroyed us as eagerly as they destroy all else, even themselves? None of the humans but Benebik could meet his cold gaze. Jiriki lifted a long finger before him. And the one you whisperingly call the Storm King, he whose name was Ineluki, he smiled bitterly as the companion shivered and stirred. Ah, even his name is fearsome. He was the best of us once, beautiful to see, wise far beyond the understanding of mortals, bright burning as a flame. If he is now a thing of dark horror, cold and hateful, whose is the fault? If now, bodiless and vengeful, he schemes to brush mankind from the face of his land like dust from a page, why should we not rejoice? It was not Ineluki who drove us into exile, so that we must hide among Aldhort's dark trees like deer, wary always of discovery. We strode Ostenard in the sunlight before men came, and the works of our hands were beautiful beneath the stars. What have mortals ever brought to us but suffering? No one could make reply, but in the stillness after Jeriki's words, a plaintive, quiet sound arose. It hovered in the darkness full of unknown words, a melody of spectral beauty. When he had finished singing, Anai looked out to his silent prince and his sithi companions, then to those who faced them across the dancing flames. "It is a song of ours that mortals once sang," he murmured. "The Western men loved it of old and gave it words in their tongue. I will try to give it words in yours." He looked up into the sky as he thought. The wind was slowing, and as the snow flurries died, the stars shone through, cold and remote. "Moss grows on the stones of Seni or Jisa," Anai sang at last, the clicks and liquid vowels of sithi speech muted. "The shadows are lingering, still as if listening. The trees have embraced Dai Chikiza's bright towers, the shadows all whispering, dark on the leaves. Long grass is waving above Enkie Shaoseye. The shadows are growing, upon the sward lengthening. The grave of Nanai Su wears a mantle of flowers, the shadowed brook silent, and no one there grieves. Where are they gone? Now the woods are all silence. Where are they gone? The song vanished away. Why will they come no more, dancing at twilight, their lamps the stars' messengers at ending of day?" As Anai's voice rose, caressing the mournful words, Simon felt a longing such as he had never felt, a homesickness for a home he had never known, a sense of loss over something that had never belonged to him. No one spoke as Anai sang. No one could have. "Sea beats above the dark streets of Jinatsene. The shadows are hiding, in deep grottos slumbering. Blue ice freezes Tumetai, entombs its sweet bowers. The shadows have stained all the pattern time weaves. Where are they gone? Now the woods are all silence. Where are they gone?" The song vanished away. Why will they come no more, dancing at twilight, their lamps the stars' messengers at ending of day? The song ended. The fire was a solitary bright spot in a wasteland of shadows. Next section. The green tent stood by itself in the damp emptiness of the plain before the walls of Naglamond. Its sides heaved and rippled in the wind as though it alone of all the other things that might move unseen in that vastly open place was breathingly alive. Gritting his teeth against a superstitious shiver, although the dank knife-like wind was reason enough to let them go a-chattering, Daernoth looked over to Josua, riding slightly ahead. "Look at him," he thought. "It's as though he saw his brother already. Just as if his eyes could see right through the green silk and the black dragon crest, right into Elias's heart." Gazing back to the third and last member of their party, Daernoth felt his heavy heart sink further. The young soldier whom Josua had insisted on bringing, Austrael, his name was, looked ready to faint from pure fright. His blunt, square features, their sun-reddening faded now by the sunless weeks of spring, were screwed tight in barely suppressed terror. "The Adon save us if he's got to be any use. Why on earth did Josua pick him?" As they slowly approached, the tent flap parted. Daernoth tensed, ready to grab for his bow. He had an instant to curse himself for allowing his prince to do such a foolish thing as this, but the green-cloaked soldier who emerged only looked up at them incuriously, then stepped to the side of the door, holding the flap open. Daernoth signed respectfully for Josua to wait, and spurred his horse into a quick circuit of the green tent. It was large, a dozen paces or more on each side, and the guy ropes thrummed with the wind-buffeted weight of it, but the flattened grass all around was empty of ambushers. "Very well, Austriel," he said, returning, "you will stand here, next to this man," he indicated the other soldier, "with at least one of your shoulders visible in the doorway at all times. Yes?" Taking the young pikeman's sickly smile for an affirmative, Daernoth turned to the king's guard. The man's bearded face was familiar. Doubtless he had seen him at the Hayholt. "If you two would stand near the doorway, it would be better for all concerned." The guard showed him a curled lip, but edged a step nearer the entrance. Josua had already dismounted and moved to the door, but Daernoth stepped quickly through ahead of him, with one hand resting lightly on his sword hilt. "There is scarcely need for such caution, Daernoth," a soft but penetrating voice said. "That is your name, is it not? After all, we are all gentlemen here." "Oh, sorry, wrong person." "There is scarcely need for such caution, Daernoth," a soft but penetrating voice said. "That is your name, is it not? After all, we are all gentlemen here." Daernoth blinked as Josua stepped in behind him. It was bitingly cold inside, and dark. The walls glowed faintly, letting in only a green fraction of the light outside, as though the tent's occupants floated inside a huge but imperfectly cut emerald. And a pale face loomed before him, the black eyes pinpoint holes into nothingness. Priretes' scarlet robe was rusty brown in the green murk, the color of dried blood. "And Josua," he said, horrible levity in his voice, "we meet again. Who would ever have thought so many things would have happened since our last conversation?" "Shut your mouth, priest, or whatever you are," the prince snapped back. There was such cold strength in his voice that even Priretes blinked in surprise like a startled lizard. "Where is my brother?" "I am here, Josua," a voice said, a deep cracked whisper that seemed to echo the wind. A figure sat in a high-backed chair in the corner of the tent, a low table resting nearby, another chair before it, the only furniture in the huge, shadowy tent. Josua moved closer. Daernoth pulled his cloak tighter and followed, more from an urge not to be left with Priretes than any hurry to see the king. The prince took the chair facing his brother. Elias sat, strangely stiff, his eyes bright as gems in his hawkish face, his black hair and pale brow bound by the iron crown of the Hayholt. Propped between his legs was a sword, scabbarded in black leather. The High King's powerful hands rested on the pommel above the strange double hilt. Although he stared for a moment, Daernoth's eyes did not want to rest on that sword. It gave him a queasy, unwell feeling, like glancing down from some great height. Instead, he looked back up to the king, but this was scarcely better. In the freezing cold of the tent, the air so chill that a mist of breath hung before Daernoth's own eyes, Elias wore only a sleeveless jerkin, his white arms bare to his heavy bracelets, the sinews pulsing beneath the skin as though they had a life of their own. "So, brother," the king said, baring his teeth in a smile, "you are looking well." "As you are not," Josua said flatly, but Daernoth could see the worried pinch of his eyes. Something was terribly wrong here. Anyone could sense it. "You called for the parley, Elias. What do you want?" The king narrowed his eyes, masking them in green shadow, and waited a long while before he replied. "My daughter. I want my daughter. There is another, too, a boy, but he is less important. No, it is Miriamel I chiefly want. If you hand her over to me, I will give my word of safe conduct to all children and women folk in Naglemund. Otherwise, All who hide behind its walls and thwart me will die." He said this last with such a casual lack of malice that Daranoth was startled by the hungry look that flitted nakedly across his face. "I do not have her, Elias," Josua replied. "Where is she?" "I do not know." "Liar!" The king's voice was so full of anger that Daranoth almost drew his sword, expecting Elias to leap from his chair. Instead, the king remained nearly motionless, only gesturing for Pyrates to refill his goblet from a ewer of some black fluid. "Do not think me a bad host for not offering you any," Elias said after he had taken a long swallow. He smiled grimly. "I fear this liquor would not agree with you." He handed the cup to Pyrates, who took it gingerly between his fingertips and lowered it to the table. "Now," Elias resumed, his tone almost reasonable, "can we not spare ourselves this useless byplay? I want my daughter, and I will have her." His tone turned grotesquely plaintive. "Does not a father have a right to the daughter he loved and raised?" Josua took a deep breath. "What rights you have are between you and her. I do not have her, and I would not give her unwilling to you if I did." He continued hastily before the king could respond. "Come, Elias, please. You were my brother once, in all things. Our father loved us both, you more than me, but he loved this land more. Can you not see what you are doing? Not just with this struggle. Adon knows this land has seen war aplenty, but there is something else here. Pyrates knows what I speak of. He it was that guided your first steps down the path, I do not doubt." Daranoth saw Pyrates turn, spewing a surprised cloud of breath at the prince's words. "Please, Elias," Josua said, his stern face full of woe, "turn back. Only from the course you have chosen, send that cursed sword back to those unholy ones who would poison you and Ostenard, and I will lay my life in your hands. I will open Nagleman's gates to you as a maiden unshuts her window for a lover. I will turn every stone in heaven and earth to find Miriamel. Throw away the sword, Elias. Throw it away. Not by accident was it named Sorrow." The king stared at Josua as if stunned. Pyrates, muttering, rushed forward, but Daranoth leaped and caught him. The priest squirmed beneath his restraining arm like a snake, and his touch was horrible, but Daranoth held fast. "Do not move," he hissed in Pyrates' ear. "Though you blast me with some spell still, I will cut the life from you before I die." He prodded the side of the scarlet robe with his drawn dagger, just far enough to touch cloaked flesh. "You have no place in this. Neither do I. This is between brothers." Pyrates became quiet. Josua was leaning forward, staring at the High King. Elias looked on as though he had trouble seeing what was before him. "She is beautiful, my Miriamel," he half whispered. "In her I sometimes see her mother, Halissa. Poor dead girl." The king's face, frozen a moment before in malice, collapsed into confusion. How could Josua have let it happen? How could he? She was so young. Groping, his white hand reached out. Josua held his own out too late. Instead of catching it, the king's long, cold fingers alighted on the leather-bound stump of the prince's right wrist. His eyes flared into life, and his face stiffened into a mask of rage. "Go to your hiding hole, traitor!" he snarled as Josua snatched his arm away. "Liar! Liar! I will shake it down around your ears." Such hatred beat out from the king that Daernoth staggered back, letting Priorites wriggle free. "I will ruin you so completely," Elias thundered, squirming in his chair as Josua walked to the tent door, "that God, all-powerful, will search 1,000 years and never even find your soul." The young soldier Austriel was so terrified by the faces of Daernoth and the prince that he wept silently all the wind-racked way back to Naglemon's brooding walls. And I think with 2 minutes left, I am going to cut it there. I see I've gone out of focus again, maybe, possibly. Yes, I have. Hello. Look into my eyes. Look into my eyes. Look into... That doesn't work. Look into my ears. Look into my ears. No, it doesn't want to focus. Who the hell cares? I'm tired of messing with this stuff. Anyway, with that, with this and that, and all the thises and that's, we have come to the end of this evening's reading, even though it's still a couple of minutes before 8 o'clock, but it's close enough. Close enough for government work, as we used to say. Or close enough for jazz. That was another one. Insulting to both jazz and government work, but probably a bigger insult to jazz. With that, I'm going to wrap it up. I apologize again for yet another weirdness. I haven't figured out why these things happen to me. I may have to ban everybody in the household from using the internet while I'm doing these. I don't know. We'll look around and find out. But in the interim, yeah, it doesn't even want to focus on my hand. How mysterious. Technology is weird. Anyway, so with that, I will say thank you so much, as always, for joining me, for putting up with the weirdness. I hope that that whole last part at least made it through and got heard, since we got to the end of chapter 40 there. And it's a very... So that was always one of my favorite parts of the Dragonbone share. That and some of the parts we're coming to, too. But anyway, so with that, I say I will be back next week, barring fire or flood, knock wood. Believe me, after this year, I'm definitely knocking wood when I say things like that. I will be back next week, both for the early Sunday morning broadcast and this particular time slot here on the TAD Mutual Network. I have no predictions to make in terms of the quality of the tech, but I can only tell you I will be here and doing my best. So, take good care of yourselves. That's the first step. Take good care of your loved ones. That's the second step. And take good care of the people around you. And if we do that, if we all do that, we will make it through somehow, I promise. And that's really all I have to say. So thank you for your patience. Thank you for your kindness. Peace. Be good. Have a good week. And I will see you very soon.